Hi there. I know that I've come across as a person who likes to make jokes in order to deal with situations that may bother me or I might find a little bit annoying. But I'm about to tell you a story that is very serious that happened to me when I was 10 years old. And I'm telling you this story in order for any other girl that may be watching this video of around that age to keep a lookout for this kind of situation. Thankfully, what happened to me was not extremely dangerous, but behavior that this person expressed towards me can lead to that kind of situation. So, this is the story of my childhood stalker. When I was 10 years old, I ended up qualifying for my private school's foreign English test. Basically, because of my school's connections to important universities around the world, students who showed an elevated understanding of English were chosen to participate in this English test conducted by the University of Cambridge. I haven't been born in the United States with a father who made sure that I knew English before I left the US to move with my mother's family in Ecuador was a shoo in for this test. Because this was a very difficult test, our school implemented this kind of extended study that happened after school for about an hour. And because of that, I, for an hour 5 days a week, would spend time with the other two qualifying kids of my grade. For privacy reasons and the fact that I don't remember their names, I'll be giving them the names of David and Tina. Tina was actually the one who introduced me to the world of YouTube, more specifically to the world of YouTubers. It was through her that I started following some of my favorite creators to this very day. And David was also a really big fan of these creators. So the three of us would constantly make inside jokes and quote their videos. Then comes the third player in this story. Let's call him Marcus. He was a guy in the grade below me. For context, I was in 6th grade, and there'd be moments in which the 6th and 5th graders would get together to take a mock exam, and we'd have to wait in a classroom together before going in to take it. And it was during one of these moments that I met him. He was friendly, albeit a bit shy. He also knew about some of my favorite creators, and it became our topic of conversation whenever we bumped into each other during recess. Now, I wouldn't call myself popular by any means, but I had my groups of friends. Different friend groups for different kinds of conversations, and most of these friend groups were mostly made up of girls. But my YouTube talking friend group, which were David and Tina, obviously had a guy in the mix. So over time, I realized that I had kind of started to develop feelings for David, and he seemed to also be a little bit interested in me. We were in 7th grade though, we weren't gonna do anything about it. Tina would just make jokes at our expense every now and then, but every once in a while, Tina wouldn't come to school, and me and David would just hang out. And it was during one of these particular hangouts that I noticed that we weren't exactly alone. Me and Marcus had talked occasionally outside of the mock exam group dynamic. 5th and 6th graders tended to share the same lunch and recess time, so I'd occasionally see him, we'd occasionally talk, and life would go on. But over time, he seemed to get a bit clingy. He barged in on conversations that he wasn't originally a part of and would get dejected if I ever told him to give me some space to talk to my other friends, and would occasionally make me feel guilty for not including him in everything that I did in recess, which of course included my one on one chats with David. He did it a couple of times, but he kinda got the hint that that wasn't his space, so what he proceeded to do was even creepier. He stared at me and David from a distance, and if glares could kill, David would have been 6 feet underground. He and I were starting to get uncomfortable. So much so that I decided to approach him and ask him what the heck he was doing. He looked down and admitted he kinda had a crush on me and that he wanted to spend more time with me. I told him that I was flattered, but he was 2 years younger than me and I wasn't looking to be in a relationship with anyone, not even David. So I told him that I appreciated him as a friend and if he wanted things to remain this way, he needed to stop being so clingy. He relented and things were fine, or so I thought. He might have not been doing things in front of me, but that doesn't mean that he was not still including me in some of his creepy acts. For example, one day I saw him at bus pickup. We were on different routes, but we were all picked up in the same location. I went over to say hi, and the look he gave me was that of instant panic, almost like he wanted me to say hi and leave. But before he could do anything, a kid that was already on the bus opened his window and yelled, "Hey, are you Marcus's girlfriend that he's been talking about?" I quickly corrected him and said, "No, we're just." And before I could finish, Marcus took me aside very quickly and asked me to just go with it, which earned him a glare from me. He had apparently been telling his friends that the girl he had a crush on had accepted his feelings, and that lie is harmless enough, except for the fact that he'd point me out whenever I would go to my bus. All I could do in that moment was look at him, turn to his friends, and say, "We are not dating," and turn to go to my bus. After that, I didn't consider me and Marcus to be friends anymore. He'd approach me, but I'd mostly ignore him. As he realized his mistake, he went into clingy overdrive. This is the moment where I'm going to be detailing some of the actions that I took against his behavior. Now, I'm not glorifying myself or advising anyone else to do the same things I did. All I am doing is telling a story of something that happened to me, as well as detailing some of the mistakes I might have made back then. Marcus started coming up to me whenever I was having conversations with my other friend groups and would not leave no matter how many times I told him to. It got to the point where I literally had to threaten him, saying that I would punch him in the face if he didn't leave me alone. That was enough to sway him for a while, until one day he decided to see how far he could push it, and that was the day my fist met his face. Again, I am not trying to justify my actions, just saying what happened. And what did he do? A teacher saw what I did and thankfully decided not to call my mom. And to be honest, that was not even for my safety because I knew I wanted to be the one getting in trouble. Are you kidding me? Telling an overprotected Latina mother that a boy has been harassing her daughter to the point where she felt that she needed to get physical, and you're asking my mother to go off on that boy, not me. Yo te estoy diciendo a ti que te calles y tú te callas. And all of my teachers knew this, so they decided to solve it in house, but they couldn't really do much about stopping him from wanting to talk to me. I eventually stopped approaching David. He was my friend first and foremost, and I didn't want him to get involved in all that Marcus craziness. It got to the point where I started leaving the vicinity whenever he'd enter the courtyard. Specifically, I would run away, and he'd just chase after me. It became a daily routine until one day it all became very dark. One second I was there and then I wasn't. Next thing I can remember, I woke up in the nurse's office. I was woozy, and according to the nurse, for the first couple of minutes, I couldn't remember who I was. That's how hard the hit to the head was. I looked in the mirror of the office, and there was a bandage around my head. It wasn't long until my mom ran into the office with my grandma. She ran to me and hugged me crying. She said that she felt something had happened, and when the school called her and told her I had a little accident, she knew something was very wrong. She demanded to know was it that she hadn't been informed that I was being harassed and the length of my injuries. And to be completely honest, that was mostly my doing. Since I was kind of embarrassed about the whole situation and didn't think it would get this far. Seriously, did watching episodes of La Rosa de Guadalupe every day not teach you anything, little me? My mom took me to the hospital that day since I was still complaining about my head hurting. Waited in the emergency room for 3 hours. Glad to see that the medical care system doesn't seem to change too much from country to country. Doctors told my mom that I had almost cracked my skull from the fall. Didn't go to school for 3 days after that. And once I came back, Marcus never approached me again. It wasn't until the day that I left Ecuador that I actually saw him again. My child friend Rose had been the only one invited to say goodbye to me before we left, but guess who extorted the information out of one of my other friends who knew at what time I was leaving and what airport I was leaving from? Yep, Marcus did. Rose and I looked at each other and decided to be the bigger people and not embarrass him in front of his dad who brought him over. It was torture to act friendly towards him. And when the time came for me to leave, he extended his arm with the gift bag in his hand. I snatched it up and left. I took it, of course. Free clothes is free clothes. Years later, when I first installed WhatsApp on my phone, guess who got my phone number from a friend of mine through deceitful means and texted me like nothing had happened? Yeah, I blocked him right away. Hey everybody, I know that it's been a long time since I posted a video, but I had a couple of life events that kind of prevented me from really focusing on this, but I am back and I promise to be more consistent with my video releasing schedule. I'm sorry that this story got a little bit too serious, but I did try to add humor here and there, but it's still a topic that is very important for anyone and everyone to hear, especially young girls. So if there are any other kids out there in school who feel unsafe with a classmate, please tell your teachers, tell your parents, or any other safe adult. I got off easy and didn't have to deal with any direct physical harm from him to me, but it could have gone very dangerous and very scary really fast had his morals not kicked in the last minute. I want to leave you guys with a positive note to say that we all go through different things in life, so we just have to be out there to support each other no matter what difficulties we go through. So, bye!